We're going to be looking at all sorts of Chiefs news in this week's episode of the Red and Gold Report, including some contract details of recent free agents that the Chiefs have signed and some Kansas-Missouri state line drama and controversies. Okay, so let's start with some free agency news. Now, the Chiefs actually have not yet signed, this is Friday morning when I'm recording this, they have not signed a free agent during week 3 of the free agency period. Now, we are getting, though, a lot of contract details for the number of players that the Chiefs did sign in week 2 of free agency. And overall, it looks like the Chiefs went on a grocery shopping trip to Aldi's or something because they bagged themselves a bunch of high quality players at a great value. Now, the most interesting information we received was on MVS, the former Green Bay receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And if you want to be able to pronounce that better, you're going to have to learn some French. That is a tricky one. At first, it looked like it was going to be a regular 3-year, $30 million contract worth up to $36 million with incentives, which, you know what, that is a bit steep for kind of his past statistics. But now with more contract details, I'm liking this deal way more because in truth, it's more of a 1-year prove-it deal. He'll only count against the cap this year for $4.9 million, which is great for a starting receiver. Then if he does awesome, which I hope he does, he'll count $11 million in 2023 and $14 million in 2024, plus whatever incentives are on the table. But if he flops this year and he gets himself cut, he's going to leave $2 million of dead cap space in 2023 and $2 million again in 2024. So that's a nice, shrewd deal by the Chiefs. We also just found out that running back Ronald Jones from Tampa, he had signed a deal that was reportedly worth, this is what everyone said about it in the media, 1 year up to $5 million. But actually, when we got the contract details, it's a deal for only $1.5 million with an addition of possible incentives up to $3.5 million more. Now, that's an absolute steal of a contract for a guy who very may well be a starting running back in the NFL. So amazing job by the Chiefs front office on that contract. Also, safety Deion Bush signed away from the Bears, came in at only 1 year, $1.2 million. So that's another amazing value to get that third safety at the right price. Tight end Blake Bell's contract is just 1 year, $1.3 million. Again, a great value there. Returning defensive tackle Derek Nottie. Now, this was a contract I was like, okay, what did this really end up being? Well, it ended up being in the Chiefs' favor. He ended up signing a 1 year, $2.8 million deal, which seems to be a fair price given he played well in 2020, but struggled in 2021. The only bad contract details that were released from all those players we signed last week was former Panthers linebacker Jermaine Carter, who ended up with a 1 year, $1.8 million contract, which even though that's not a ton, he really struggled last year. And man, that you'd like to have seen it be veteran minimum if you were going to sign him. But all in all, mostly some great value signings for the Chiefs in week 2. But now in week 3, all has been quiet on the free agency front. They didn't sign anybody this week as of the making of this video. And hey, real quick, if you want the best Chiefs news videos, make sure that you subscribe to the Red and Gold Report on YouTube. Hit that notification bell too, or you're not going to see these videos. Okay, so in other Chiefs news, apparently Chiefs president Mark Donovan, that's more of the business side of things, said that the Chiefs organization has considered options in the state of Kansas for a future stadium. Now, all of Chiefs Kingdom online exploded because, people absolutely love Arrowhead. Like, I grew up on the Kansas side, but I love Arrowhead. I can't imagine the Chiefs playing anywhere else. But I don't think we should really freak out too much about this, really, for at least 2 reasons. First, a lot of times teams, their business side of guys, well, they'll say things like this just to create some artificial leverage for future stadium negotiations. Maybe that's what he was up to there. And even if they know the team isn't going anywhere, they might throw out comments like this just to help themselves in those negotiations. And second reason you shouldn't freak out about this, the current lease on Arrowhead, it doesn't expire till 2031. So kind of a statement none of us liked, but it doesn't really lead to anything right now. In similarly controversial state line news, newly signed safety Deion Bush recently tweeted this: "Man, this Kansas barbecue good. This is what he tweeted, if I remember it right. Man, this Kansas barbecue good. Now, notice he didn't say Kansas City barbecue, right? Just Kansas barbecue. And don't worry, a mob of us ensured that he was promptly corrected because I don't make Kansas ribs on my smoker. No, no, no. I make Kansas City style ribs on my smoker. But actually, Dion's response to this all, it was pretty hilarious. He seems to be a funny, likable guy, took it in stride. I'm going to have to follow him for sure online. In other news, the NFL has officially changed the overtime rules for the playoffs to ensure that both teams get the ball. I do agree with the rule change. I think that is fair. But wow, doesn't it, as a Chiefs fan, feel kind of weird that the NFL is doing this specifically because the Chiefs beat the Bills in overtime? Like, is that how scared the NFL is of Mahomes? That they got to change the rules to help everybody else out? In other news, former Chiefs star defensive safety Tyrann Mathieu has made it through 3 weeks of free agency unsigned. Yes, he's still a free agent. He did not find the market he thought he would find. Now, I always think it's funny the difference between like the hype the media creates and what actually ends up happening in the league. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that Deion Bush, yes, the Deion Bush, the former Bears safety the Chiefs just signed for $1.2 million, he actually had a better PFF grade last year than Tyrann Mathieu? Yeah. Kind of interesting, right? Now, don't click off. I'm not saying Tyrann's not actually better. I think he is. I think he is more dynamic. He brings a lot of other things to the table. But like I said throughout last year, he was good, but he wasn't that elite defensive playmaker that he had been in previous years. So get out your popcorn, because it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for him to get signed by somebody and how big or small the contract ends up being. But the market wasn't what he thought it was going to be. Also in Chiefs news, head coach Andy Reid recently addressed the trade of star wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Now, Reid said that there was no rift, that's how he put it, no rift between Tyreek and himself, which I think I believe that, but like I've said over and over again, don't trust anything in NFL press conferences. Coaches are trained to be like political ninjas creating smoke screens. So who knows? Reid also said that after making an aggressive contract offer, Tyreek declined that offer, and then the team really didn't want to play hardball with him. And Reid more or less said that Tyreek just got to decide where he wanted to be traded to, which confirms what we discussed in our last video, which, hey, that's not really the philosophy I would take, but I get why the Chiefs did it. It's becoming more clear as we go on and we hear more information. Also in Chiefs news, the Chiefs missed out on signing former 49ers defensive end Arden Key. Now, I was really excited because Key came in on a big visit to Kansas City. I was hoping he was going to go away with a contract, but they ended up signing with the Jaguars. Now, he was a player that I talked about really wanting in my defensive line special video before free agency. He signed a $1 million deal worth just $4 million with the possibility of adding $3 million more with incentives. And I just think the Chiefs really missed out on adding a young, good, inexpensive player at a position of huge need where we probably need two starters still. And finally, let's talk about some other news. Let's start talking about the draft, which starts on April 28th. Now, online, we're already starting to see lots of mock drafts out there for the Chiefs, and, we'll get to that and all that, but right now it's kind of sort of a waste of time, seeing as how, well, any mock draft is in a way, because you don't know who the teams are actually going to pick before you, but also we, the Chiefs, we still have $17 million in cap space. We very well might sign a player or two or trade for a few more players so we don't know where we're at, because as it stands, after the free agents we have signed so far, well, we still have some significant holes and we might fill them between now and the draft. But here's where we stand on the needs that I see currently if the draft was tomorrow. There's a dire need for two defensive end pass rushers. We have to find another starting corner, and we could really use adding a wide receiver and a defensive tackle to the starting mix as well. Now, there are rumors that the Chiefs have been exploring trades for wide receivers and corners. A few of these rumors are absurd, but there might be something to maybe the corner trades possibilities. But wow, the need at defensive end is so glaring. So be looking for an edge rusher to be picked early by the Chiefs in this year's draft. Now, ends like Michigan's Aiden Hutchinson and Oregon's Kayvon Thibodeau, they're going to be long gone by the time the Chiefs pick. Even if the Chiefs were trying to trade up, they're going to be long gone by the time they're picking. However, right now, as I'm beginning to watch tape on some of these guys, I really like George Karlaftis. I have no idea how to say his name. It goes Carl Aftis, I think. Carl Aftis. George Carl Aftis from Purdue and Jermaine Johnson from FSU. I would love to see us trade about 10 spots up in the first round with one of our first round draft picks and grab one of these two guys. Now, that's what we're going with right now for the draft, but we're going to be looking at the draft in weeks to come more, but I'd love to see one of these ends make it on the Chiefs. That's it for this week's episode of the Red and Gold Report. Make sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Hit that little notification bell also on YouTube so you actually see these videos. Thanks for watching, and go Chiefs!